The message reached Meghan without warning. A sealed directive bearing Prince William's signature had formally stripped her of every remaining royal title, honorary role, and patronage still connected to the crown. There had been no final negotiation, no private warning from Charles, and no opportunity for Harry to intervene. In one decisive act, the future king had severed the last official thread, binding the Duchess to royal life. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. Meghan read the first page twice in Montecito, then lowered it slowly. Harry watched her face tighten and reached for the file, but she pulled it back. The directive, a formal written command carrying palace authority, removed her Duchess styling from official use, ended every honorary association linked to her name, and transferred each inactive royal patronage to working family members. A patronage is a public role through which a royal supports a charity or institution, and losing it meant losing the final proof that her years inside the monarchy still carried official value. Harry demanded to know why William had signed it instead of Charles. Meghan did not answer. She kept reading until one sentence stopped her cold. The removals were permanent, comprehensive, and incapable of restoration through future reconciliation. The words were colder than dismissal. They meant no apology, private meeting, or future peace between the brothers could return what had been taken. The order had reached royal offices, charity trustees, ceremonial departments, and the Sussex household simultaneously, blocking any last-minute appeal before the changes became public. Charles had remained silent while the machinery moved. Meghan turned the final page and discovered the decision had been completed 48 hours earlier during a confidential meeting at Windsor. Windsor was not merely a royal residence. It was one of the monarchy's main working centers, where private family decisions could become crown action. Several relatives had therefore known while she and Harry remained unaware. That silence wounded her as deeply as the removals. Harry reached again, softer this time, but Meghan slipped off her wedding ring and placed it beside the directive. She did not reject him. She was showing him how far the conflict had entered their marriage, how a battle over titles had become a test of loyalty, identity, and belonging. When she finally looked up, her shock had hardened into one question. Who had helped William make this irreversible? But before Meghan could understand who had helped William erase her final royal privileges, she first had to confront the painful truth that every person involved had something deeply personal to lose. Behind the formal language of titles and patronages stood a family already fractured beyond recognition. For William, the decision was presented as protection of the monarchy. For Meghan, it felt like punishment disguised as duty. And for Harry, trapped between the woman he loved and the brother he once trusted, the order forced an unbearable choice: defend his marriage without reservation, or admit that the royal connection had finally become impossible to save. William stood alone in his Windsor study before the signature was added, staring at an old photograph of himself and Harry as boys. The prince carried the growing burden of a future monarch, the person expected to inherit the crown and protect its authority, while Charles struggled to contain disputes involving palace staff, charities, public branding, and the Sussex household. Every delay allowed the conflict to spread further. Every decision risked turning a family wound into a national spectacle. Meghan understood what remained at stake. Her patronages, official links through which a royal supports charities and public causes, were the final institutional proof that her years of service still mattered. She no longer worked for the sovereign, yet those roles allowed her to claim that part of her royal identity had survived. Losing them meant more than losing names on paper. It meant watching the monarchy separate her public legacy from the family she had entered through marriage. Harry paced in California and accused his brother of trying to erase his wife from history. Meghan listened, then answered with unsettling calm. William was doing something more calculated, she said. He was separating Harry's future from hers, one royal symbol at a time. The accusation struck him because he had already begun to fear the same thing. His anger protected her, but beneath it sat a deeper terror, that defending his marriage might finally cost him his brother forever. Charles had resisted the harshest version of the order. The king feared that removing every title-related privilege would destroy any path toward reconciliation and make the monarchy appear cruel. Catherine, however, warned William that delay would create a larger crisis. She insisted the directive must punish institutional misuse, not Meghan's marriage, motherhood, or private family status. William lifted his pen and paused. He asked Catherine whether Harry would ever forgive him. She placed her hand over the childhood photograph and answered that forgiveness could not come before accountability. The pen touched the page, but the true cause of that signature lay elsewhere. In one evening, when Meghan crossed a boundary she had been warned never to approach. And as the family searched for the moment when private resentment became permanent action, every path led back to a glittering ceremony where one unexpected announcement changed everything. The crisis had not begun with a palace memo or a bitter telephone call. It began beneath chandeliers at a private charity gala in New York, where Meghan stepped onto a stage and invoked a dormant royal patronage that Buckingham Palace had explicitly forbidden her from representing. To the guests, it sounded like a confident declaration of service. Inside Windsor, it was interpreted as a direct challenge to William's authority and the Crown's name. Months earlier, palace officials had sent the Sussex household a written restriction. The order allowed Meghan to discuss her past charitable work, but it barred her from seeking donations, forming partnerships, or speaking under former royal patronage identities. A royal patronage is an official link between a member of the family and a charity, and that link matters because donors may believe the Crown stands behind every campaign carrying its name. Several trustees had already told William they could no longer tell whether Meghan represented the monarchy, her private foundation, or a commercial venture. Meghan felt humiliated. She told Harry the palace was trying to make years of service disappear simply because she had refused to remain silent. He urged caution before the gala, warning that one careless phrase could be used against her. She refused to retreat. In her mind, avoiding the patronage would let the institution rewrite her contribution and reduce her to a footnote in a story she had helped shape. Then came the sentence that changed everything. Meghan announced a new international campaign, in continuation of my royal patronage mission, while the old crest appeared behind her. The crest was the charity's official royal symbol, and its use suggested palace approval even though none existed. A trustee near the stage immediately sent a photograph and transcript to Catherine's private secretary through a documented message. Minutes later, William received it during dinner at Windsor and left the table without explanation. Morning brought the deeper danger. The charity board disclosed that donors had been encouraged to believe the campaign still carried royal endorsement, exposing the monarchy to questions about legal responsibility and financial transparency. William watched a recording in silence. When the crest appeared, he stopped the video, closed the laptop, and told his advisor, "She was warned in writing. There can be no third warning." Yet punishment did not come at once. William decided Meghan deserved one final chance to explain herself in person, without lawyers softening the anger between them. That decision would turn a charity dispute into a brutal family reckoning. What followed was not another distant exchange through lawyers or courtiers, but a closed-door encounter in which years of resentment finally entered the same room. The room at Windsor had been cleared of aides before Meghan entered. William stood beside a long table with the gala transcript placed between them, while Harry remained outside at his brother's request. There were no cameras, no advisors, and no carefully prepared public statements. Only two people who believed the other had betrayed the family. Within minutes, the conversation moved beyond patronages and exposed wounds neither had ever spoken aloud. William had summoned Meghan during her brief private visit to Britain, promising that no decision would be finalized until she answered the evidence herself. The transcript was a written record of the New York speech, and it mattered because every disputed word could now be measured against the palace warning she had already received. She had agreed to come only after demanding that Harry sit beside her. The prince refused, insisting that actions taken under her name had to be discussed without her husband shielding either side from the truth. Outside, Harry waited in silence, unaware the meeting would soon expose a betrayal, reaching far beyond the palace walls that day. Meghan did not soften. She asked how the palace could claim ownership over charitable work she had helped build. William answered by asking why she had used the old patronage identity after receiving a direct prohibition. A patronage was an official royal link to a charity, and using it without approval risked making donors believe the crown backed a campaign it had never authorized. She accused him of protecting the institution whenever a person threatened its image. He replied that she repeatedly turned private disputes into public leverage. Then William opened a second folder. He revealed, through documented donor correspondence and internal emails, that the gala had not been the only breach. 3 private approaches and a proposed media partnership had also relied on royal language. Meghan's anger faltered. Someone inside the Sussex operation had supplied those records. Only a trusted member of her own team could have reached such private material, and the betrayal suddenly felt closer than Windsor. Meghan pushed her chair backward and stood. William placed the unsigned directive before her. She asked whether he had decided her fate before she entered. "I decided the boundary, you decided whether to cross it," he answered. As she reached the door, he offered one final compromise: apologize to the trustees, and one humanitarian role could survive. She stopped, hand fixed on the handle, then refused. She would not confess to serving people. The confrontation had ended, but the real battle was only beginning, because even the future king could not erase Meghan's remaining royal identity without unlocking powers hidden deep inside the monarchy's machinery. William's anger alone could not remove titles, dissolve patronages, or command independent charities to sever royal associations. The decision required authority, evidence, and the cooperation of people whose signatures carried consequences far beyond one family dispute. Behind the palace walls, Charles, Catherine, and Princess Anne were each asked to approve a different part of the action, and each faced a private emotional cost before placing pen to paper. Charles read the recommendation alone and set it down without signing. The king understood that royal styling meant the official way a person's title and rank were used by the palace, and withdrawing it would publicly separate Meghan from the institution. He also knew the order had been divided into 3 coordinated actions. He would approve the styling change, William would reassign the patronages, and independent charity boards would terminate the remaining honorary positions. Anne entered without ceremony and found her brother still staring at the page. The Princess Royal had been chosen to supervise the institutional review because she was known for placing duty above emotion. Charles told her that removing Meghan's final style would feel to Harry like losing his family for a second time. She answered that allowing royal identity without royal responsibility would betray every working member who accepted scrutiny, limits, and years of service. Catherine studied the charities while the others debated authority. She examined whether sudden leadership changes would damage fundraising, staff confidence, or the people those organizations served. During that review, the princess discovered a confidential succession plan, naming Sophie as Meghan's replacement at one patronage. A succession plan was simply a prepared handover to the next representative, and its existence proved the trustees had expected a separation long before William's directive arrived. William's decisive power came from an accession-era protocol Charles had approved after becoming king. The protocol, a formal rule created at the start of a reign, allowed the heir to reorganize inactive patronages when their continued use created financial or reputational danger. That hidden authority transformed the prince's anger into action no private appeal could easily reverse. Charles finally lifted his pen after reading William's handwritten note. "I am not asking you to choose between your sons. I am asking you to protect what both of us were born to serve." The monarch signed. Anne gathered the 3 authorizations, placed them inside a black folder, and closed the clasp. Catherine watched in silence, knowing the family would never return to its former shape. By sunrise, Meghan's private fear would become an unavoidable public reality. The signatures had been gathered in silence, but their consequences would arrive loudly. One cancelled invitation, altered website, and reassigned patronage at a time. The fallout did not arrive as one dramatic announcement. It came in a sequence of smaller erasures. A biography vanished from a charity website. An invitation was withdrawn. A ceremonial photograph was replaced. Each change appeared minor on its own, but together, they delivered a devastating message. The royal world was continuing without Meghan, and the institutions that once celebrated her name had already begun preparing for someone else to take her place. Meghan refreshed the first web page again and again until her portrait disappeared from the leadership page. The honorary affiliations listed beneath her name were gone, while trustees received instructions to replace the royal crests once connected to her work. A royal crest is an official symbol showing that an organization has recognized palace support, so removing it told donors that the crown no longer stood behind her role. The loss mattered because those links had been the last public evidence of her service inside the monarchy. 3 patronages then released coordinated statements thanking Meghan for her past contribution, before naming Sophie, Catherine, and Lady Louise as future representatives. She read every announcement in silence, then told Harry the palace was not simply removing positions, it was staging her replacement. He called Charles at once and demanded that the order be suspended. The king listened, but he refused, reminding his son that Meghan had been offered one final compromise and had chosen not to accept it. One cancellation cut deeper than all the others. Meghan learned that she had been removed as ceremonial president of a women's advocacy fund she believed had been promised for life. A ceremonial president is an honorary public leader who lends recognition and influence without managing daily operations. The fund's chair explained, in a private documented letter, that repeated confusion over royal authorization had weakened donor confidence. The wording was devastating. The trustees, not only William, wanted the separation. Meghan opened a velvet presentation box holding the badge of one former patronage. After a long silence, she closed the lid and pushed it across the table to Harry. She would not return it by courier, she said, like an unwanted employee. He carried the box into the hallway, then stopped when he heard her crying behind the closed door. For the first time, he did not turn back immediately. Something inside him had shifted. That hesitation led Harry toward a choice Meghan could not yet see. He would contact William directly, without her, without Charles, and without any palace official listening. As Meghan grieved the public destruction of her royal legacy, Harry made a decision that would alter the conflict completely. He called the brother he had spent years refusing to trust. There was no palace conference table between them when Harry and William finally spoke. No communications secretary shaped their words, and no lawyer recorded what was said. The brothers faced each other through a private video call, both exhausted by a conflict that had consumed their marriages and reshaped their father's reign. For once, neither man began by defending himself. Harry simply held up the returned patronage badge and asked whether anything remained of their bond. Harry had called from a private room after Meghan went to bed, bypassing both households and asking that the conversation remain between brothers. William agreed, knowing the removal could not be reversed, but believing his younger brother deserved the truth. A patronage badge is the formal symbol of a royal connection to a charity, and the object between them now carried the weight of a life they had once shared. Harry said Meghan felt erased, punished, and humiliated. William answered that the family had not deleted her past service. It had ended her power to represent institutions whose rules she no longer accepted. The prince admitted that signing the directive felt like cutting the final rope tying his brother to Britain. Harry replied that the rope had already been fraying each time the palace treated his wife as a threat rather than family. William then revealed, through the confidential review attached to the signed order, that he had rejected harsher recommendations. Meghan's personal honors, family status, and place in historical records had been preserved. Historical records are the official files that confirm marriages, family ties, and ceremonial roles for generations. The future king had refused to remove every reference to her marriage, even when advisors argued that a complete separation would be cleaner. Harry's expression changed. He confessed that he had warned Meghan before the New York gala not to invoke the old patronage. He had understood the boundary and feared the consequences, yet he had defended her publicly because admitting that truth felt like betrayal. The confession did not heal the brothers, but it stripped away a lie standing between them. Harry placed the badge on the desk. William lifted their childhood photograph toward the camera and said, "This decision closes a role. It does not have to bury 2 brothers." Neither apologized fully. Still, Harry agreed to return the insignia personally and stop challenging the removal through public statements. Their understanding remained private, but outside Buckingham Palace, one image was about to turn their family crisis into a national judgment. The brothers had reached a fragile human understanding, but beyond their private call, Britain was already choosing what William's decision represented, and whose pain the public believed. By morning, the decision dominated Britain. Broadcasters interrupted regular programming, royal correspondents gathered outside palace gates, and newspaper editors reduced years of family conflict to one brutal headline. Yet beneath the spectacle was a deeper national argument. Had William defended the integrity of public service, or had the monarchy used its power to punish a woman who refused to obey? One image outside Buckingham Palace captured the division more clearly than any debate. Charles watched the coverage from Clarence House and felt the story slipping beyond his control. Palace officials had confirmed that Meghan no longer held active royal titles for official use, and that every remaining patronage had been reassigned immediately. A patronage is an official link between a royal figure and a charity, so the change told the public that she could no longer speak with the Crown's authority. The decision mattered because it separated private fame from public duty, while also making the family rupture impossible to hide. Supporters praised William for drawing a long-delayed boundary. Critics accused the monarchy of using its power to punish a woman who had refused to submit. The king turned off the television when one commentator described the decision as a father choosing his heir over his younger son. Catherine faced a different pain. Messages praised her restraint, but she felt disturbed by the celebration of Meghan's humiliation and ordered her staff to keep every royal social media account free of triumphant language. Then a broadcaster revealed, through a documented palace briefing, that William had rejected a proposal to remove Harry's remaining honorary connections at the same time. The disclosure proved the order had been limited to Meghan's disputed roles, rather than designed to destroy the Sussex family completely. Hours later, Sophie was named to the Women's Advocacy Fund, confirming that the transition had been prepared carefully. The Daily Chronicle captured the public mood with a front page showing Meghan's empty ceremonial chair beneath the headline, "The Crown Closes the Door." Outside Buckingham Palace, one woman placed flowers at the gates, while another held a sign reading, "Service requires trust." A live broadcast showed them standing only feet apart, one mourning what Meghan represented, the other defending William's action. Britain had become the argument. As the noise reached its peak, William prepared a final recorded address. He refused attacks on Meghan and removed every victorious phrase, determined to explain what the monarchy had protected and what his family had sacrificed to protect it. The country had delivered its arguments, the newspapers had chosen their verdicts, and now William had to explain whether this was an act of vengeance or the painful boundary on which his future reign would stand. William did not celebrate when the order became final. There was no victory toast at Windsor, and no satisfaction in watching Meghan's royal identity disappear from official life. Instead, he stood before a small gathering of charity leaders and acknowledged the truth the palace could no longer avoid. Titles are not possessions, service is not personal property, and royal privilege cannot survive when responsibility is rejected. The monarchy had protected its boundary, but the family had paid for it. William delivered the final address through a recorded palace statement, shared with charity leaders and the public. The prince explained that royal titles and patronages belonged to the institution and the causes they served, not permanently to any individual who once held them. A patronage is an official royal link to a charity, and palace endorsement means the crown publicly stands behind that relationship. He thanked Meghan for real contributions made during her years of service, but confirmed that her future work must continue under her private identity. Meghan watched from California and felt the finality settle over her. William did not insult her, question her marriage, or deny what she had achieved before leaving. That restraint mattered. It made the decision harder to dismiss as revenge. Harry faced his own ending at a British consular office, where he returned the patronage badge. He rested one hand on the box before releasing it, accepting that a chapter of their lives had closed permanently. The final documents preserved Meghan's place in royal history as Harry's wife and the mother of their children. Yet they created an unbreakable line between family connection and institutional authority. William's choice also defined his emerging leadership. Affection could shape private relationships, but it could not override public trust, charitable money, or the crown's name. Back at Windsor, William placed the childhood photograph of himself and Harry inside a desk drawer instead of destroying it. Meghan gathered her former patronage files, closed them inside a storage box, and began planning an independent foundation, carrying only her own name. She had lost the royal platform, but not her will to remain visible. The removal did not destroy Meghan, and it gave William no easy triumph. It ended the illusion that royal authority could survive without royal accountability. Harry remained family, without power over palace decisions. The door to official royal life had closed for Meghan forever, not as an unfinished threat, but as a completed reckoning that separated title from identity, family from authority, and personal freedom from the privileges of the crown. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.